Hello, this is Just Listen, hosted by George Goodman. Today is April the 6th, 2026. I hope everybody had a good Easter weekend. Welcome to the program. You can subscribe and you can also follow me on Facebook and on YouTube. So let's get to it here. Today, I want to talk about the U.S. federal government policy on the executive order on birthright citizenship. As you are aware, maybe some of you are not aware, it's at the Supreme Court. So let me lay some foundation that you have not heard before. So, in January 2025, there was an executive order, 14160, that was put into place protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. The order seeks to end automatic birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to parents who are either in the country unlawfully or on a temporary visas. Again, in the country unlawfully or on a temporary visa. Why did I say it twice? Because the perception of what they are doing and the reality are different. Now, as of April 5th, 2026, the order is not in effect. Why? Because of ongoing legal challenges. All right, so the Supreme Court, as I said earlier, is hearing oral arguments on the constitutionality of the order. And it's under the case Barber versus Trump, if you wanted to look up. Now, already, and this is opinion from the media, conservatives express skepticism toward the administration's arguments. So the final ruling will be early July 2026. All right, just before our 250th birthday. So we can kick it off right. Now, provision of that executive order specifically directs federal agencies to deny U.S. citizenship, which means passports and social security numbers to children born on or after February 20th, 2025, if they meet the following criteria. Unlawful presence. The mother is present in the U.S. without legal status, and the father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, LPR. Temporary legal presence. The mother is in the U.S. on the temporary basis, meaning student, work, or tourist visas, and the father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. So that is the criteria. Now, we're being specific here. Deny U.S. citizenship recognition. So that means that they can't have a passport, social security numbers. That's it. And also, children born on or after February 20th, 2025. So that's only a year ago. They are not going way back and saying, "Hey, you're not a citizen." So that clears it up too, because the perception is that they were going to go back 10, 15 years. Now, here is the Trump administration's view, which is the federal government's view. The Trump administration argues that the 14th Amendment's subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause has been misinterpreted and should not apply to those without permanent legal ties to the country. Critics contend the order is unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment and settled precedent, and they point to a case called United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which was in 1898, and I'll get to that case in a second. All right. If upheld, the order could affect 250,000 children annually, potentially increasing the undocumented population in the U.S. by 25% over the next 50 years. Okay, now that is somebody's opinion because we don't know currently how many people that would affect. So the projected impact is part of a news article that unfortunately the mainstream media at times projects things, and it will be over the next 50 years. What are the key arguments for interpreting the 14th Amendment as granting birthright citizenship to children of non-citizens? Okay, so the debate over the 14th Amendment citizenship clause, specifically the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof, is the central legal battleground for birthright citizenship. Okay, now we have set the table. All right, because this argument is the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and I've read through there so you can decide yourself, and I've given you more facts and details than we hear the mainstream media talk about. Now, there is something called geographic jurisdiction. Jurisdiction simply means being physically present and required to follow U.S. laws. If you can be sued or prosecuted in a U.S. court, you are subject to the jurisdiction. Okay, so the people who are trying to say that you cannot do birthright citizenship, this is what they are hanging their hats on right here. Now, and I went and I looked at, and it's like 1,000 pages for immigration law. And what should happen is that if someone is in the country illegally, the first thing that happens is once they are here illegally, they are supposed to be extradited out of the country. That's the first thing. If they have committed a crime, they can either be prosecuted and then deported or just deported. We're just not enforcing it. And so the notion that this geographic jurisdiction may or may not be true. Now, here is what the people who say that it's unconstitutional to have this executive order are saying. So, Wong Kim Ark. This landmark Supreme Court case ruled that a child born in the U.S. to Chinese immigrants was a citizen at birth. Supporters say this settled the matter for all non-citizens. Now, there's something in parentheses that I want to read to you. Who were legally barred from becoming citizens themselves. This was in the 1800s, 1898, and apparently Chinese immigrants could not become citizens in the first place. So you have to digest that, because if it is argued in such a way, they couldn't become citizens in the first place. So does that change why the court said that their children were citizens? Just throwing that out there. So, English common law. The phrase was based on the British concept of jus soli, right of the soil. The framers of the 14th Amendment intended to cement this principle to ensure formerly enslaved people were recognized as citizens regardless of local state laws. Okay, so this is what they are arguing to say that birthright citizenship executive order should not be. So you have to decide, I think, we're opinion, that this doesn't apply because the circumstances are still different. avoidance of a permanent caste. Legal scholars argue that ending birthright citizenship would create a multi-generation class of residents with no legal standing, undermining social stability. Now, this one is really doesn't make sense to me. Another opinion coming from me. They can't prove that. What's a permanence? A permanent cast. So you have to decide, and also look at the parameters that I talked about earlier. So this is an executive order, meaning that Congress did not pass a law. The executive, meaning the president, can do executive orders to cover things. Okay, to put it simply. All right, but the order seeks to end automatic birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to parents who are either in the country unlawfully or on temporary visas. That's all that it's talking about. So, in order for that to affect a lot of people, I'm saying that it would not. We have specific parameters that we are talking about. So, my opinion is this. The American people need to compel the House of Representatives to change the law if that is what they think is appropriate. The executive order is the opinion of one branch of government. We have two other branches of government, and the judicial system is going to weigh in and make a ruling. We, the United States, have not changed the Constitution through amendments or passed any significant laws. People in previous generations have done that. So if we really want to protect people from this birthright citizenship executive order, then we, the people, have to do the work. Congress has to do the work. Congress passes the laws. We could amend the Constitution if that's what they wanted. I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to uphold this executive order for other reasons. So you decide. But what I blame the mainstream media for is they don't lay out information so anyone can make an informed decision. Because on the surface, it sounds like that you're saying that anybody in the country, if a baby is born here, they're not citizens of the United States. If they're here legally, that does not apply. And also, if you look at the world, we have the easiest citizenship rules in the country. And like I've told you previously, one of the toughest ones is from the Middle East, South American countries. We can't just go there and become citizens. So you decide. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. You can follow me, like I said earlier, on Facebook. I am doing Reels, and also I'm doing Reels on YouTube. Have a great day, and let me know what you think.